On this episode of Hudson Valley Hustle, I'm joined by Alex Lonstein, a copyright and trademark attorney with a really interesting clientele. Hope you enjoy. Alex Lonstein, what's up, man?
Nice to see you.
Yeah, you as well.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, so you're in an interesting business.
As you know, it is an interesting business and definitely an interesting time.
So you're a lawyer. So anybody that doesn't know you, you're an attorney in Ellenville.
As far as I know, yes,
right?
Correct, yeah.
On paper?
Yes, on paper. I'm an attorney based in Ellenville.
Yeah, and...
a big city, yeah.
So, okay, the interesting side of what you do is your clientele is...
Well, it depends who you ask. And depending on who I'm speaking with, if it's someone of an older generation, I would call it content creation because it's a little easier to explain than OnlyFans. But yes, I represent a lot of OnlyFans creators.
How does one get into that field?
Well, I'm sure, as most people might tell you, with however or whatever they're involved in, it was pure coincidence, pure chance that I got involved in this. I was actually in Miami on vacation, and I got a phone call from a kid that used to actually intern at my office, right? It was like a college freshman. He says, I need help. I'm like, what's going on? And it says, well, it's my girlfriend. She's in OnlyFans, and she's in a really bad contract, and she needs to get out of it. They're taking all her money. And I was like, okay, I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm not familiar with this at all, but a bad contract's a bad contract. Let's take a look. A week later, we sit down, we talk about it, and say, okay, there might be an avenue out. We get her out of the contract. And I was like, all right, so what are you going to do now? And she said, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. I'm going to open my own business. I'm going to manage my own OnlyFans agency. And I was like, okay, well, do you know what an LLC is? She goes, no, what's that? Do you know what an EIN number? No, I have no idea what that is. I said, I think you might need to hire me. And it was from there is kind of how it took off. And, you know, that was my first client. That was back in 21. And it's just, you know, from there, it's just been off to the races.
That is so interesting. Like the work that they do, you know, whether you agree with it or not, it is interesting and amazing at how much money they're actually able to bring in, and that it's worth having an attorney to protect those assets.
Oh, you're picking up on it now. Yeah. Well, it depends, obviously, because not all are super successful.
Sure.
It really runs the whole spectrum of how much money. There's really successful creators, and then there's really not so successful creators. And there's clearly a formula to it. I'm not an expert on how you monetize your content. However, I am an expert on how you protect your content. And I do a lot of different things for them, which is anything from corporation creation or formation, you know, business stuff, contract review, contract litigation if need be. But what I started out doing was copyright litigation. And that's how I started seeing an avenue in this moving forward, which is, as you know, because we make videos about it all the time, is that if somebody posts their content without their permission, they could get a lot of money for it if they decide to sue in federal court, which is the only court you can sue in.
Gotcha. So people leak the OnlyFans creators' content and you go to bat for the creator and say, hey, we're going to basically get damages for you based on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea. And obviously the creator has to do their homework too. And if they don't want to take the steps to do it to ensure that they can go to court, then it doesn't work. They have to go and register the copyright registration. They have to do that for each piece of content that they want to protect. Convincing people that it is an easy process, but convincing them that it's an expense that they should invest in is probably a lot harder than actually going ahead and enforcing it. But that is probably the biggest challenge that I see, is that, you know, showing the value of going ahead and registering that copyright, because you don't realize that you've lost all this money until after you felt the damage. But if you don't take the necessary steps in ensuring you protect it, though, for lack of a better phrase, you shit out of luck.
Yeah. And a lot of times I feel like it's kind of like insurance, right? Like you don't need it till you need it.
But you really wish you had it when you need it. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Exactly. So from the business standpoint of things, I guess the OnlyFans creators are basically their own boss, right? They are the business. They are the talent. They are the business. They don't know what an LLC is or a corporation is or what an EIN number is. And, you know, how important is it for somebody like that to get help when it comes to that, because and it's not just OnlyFans creators, because again, like this is business people in general. How important is it to just get your ducks in a row and find people to help you with the things that you don't understand?
Well, I think you know what I'm going to say, that of course it's extremely important, because if you're not organized, if you don't have your ducks in a row, then it impacts the rest of your life, it impacts the rest of your business, etc. A lot of these girls are extremely intelligent, and they understand the importance of, I need an LLC, I need to run my money through this, I need to deduct taxes, and I need to save money. And those are the ones that I like working with because it's easier to work with. However, you also need to teach. I'm playing a role of an educator as well, in which I have to teach a lot of the creators, this is what you need to do, and this is the function that it serves. You know, and you're an adult now. And that's really what it is. It's like, congrats, you're making more money than I'm probably ever going to see in my life. Now, how are you going to protect it? And are you ready to pay taxes? And do you have an accountant? You know, how are you taking this personally? Like, are you taking this to your corporation? There's so many different ways that, you know, this could play out if you don't take the correct steps. And that's what I try to prepare them.
What do you think is the biggest mistake that they typically make when starting that business?
Well, when starting the business or in actually practicing their business and making content, because it's very situational dependent, right? Mm-hmm. I see the biggest mistake that I see that's specific to the industry is, say you have a girl that's making a lot of money. And when I say a lot of money, I mean like $250,000 a month, because that's not unheard of. And I've seen that a few times. They enter into a management contract, and the management does all their messaging and everything like that for them. Whoever, if you subscribe to an OnlyFans and you're messaging someone, well, you're not talking to that creator, which is like not a very well kept secret. I think everyone kind of knows that at this point. But
I don't know that. I don't know that.
Right. I only know that because I'm in this field, clearly. But
I have no idea.
But like that is the game that
interesting.
And that's how it works.
Wait, so they'll literally act on their behalf? Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Correct. So like there's a lot of dumb people out there, and they'll message all day long, and they'll tip to message. And sometimes, you know, it's $5 every time you send a message, and they're just spending money all day long. And a lot of these agencies are run by kids that are in their early 20s. And they hire people in the Philippines that can do the messaging 24/7. So if somebody's in California, your agency's based in Texas, and the model's based in New York, it doesn't really matter. Someone's always active. But the biggest mistake, to go back to that, is that I see that they get into these contracts. They do not read the contract. They do not realize what sort of power and control the agency has over them, and what the agency's actually going to produce for them. And then when they try to leave because they get wise to, hey, maybe this agency doesn't have my best interest at heart, they're kind of stuck in this really bad contract. And I see that happening a lot. And you can only really learn is if someone A, teaches you, or B, you learn from being burned, which unfortunately more girls are burned, and that's when they come to me. But I like it when I get to say, hey, wait, don't sign this. This is not a good deal.
Is this like uncharted territory for lawyers? Because like this is only really...
Excuse me.
Yeah. This has only been really the last 3 or 4 years, right?
Yeah, like
it's
like a product of the pandemic. At least that's what I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's absolutely uncharted territory. And there's a big part of it where I'm still figuring out, like, where is this going to end up? What is my role going to be in this particular client's business, right? I could be an advisor. I can be a litigator, whatever you need me to be, and I will. I'm flexible, and that's what makes my job so fun. But as far as a legality in a more global sense, it's a great question. I don't know, because I don't think this was ever envisioned. And we have really old copyright laws, which I know we've talked about a lot, and but it was never envisioned that you would be creating content like this, like sitting right now on this podcast at this scale with this frequency, that the Copyright Office can process this many requests if they were, in theory, to get a request for every piece of content that people made, which obviously does not happen yet, but it could happen in theory. And our laws are outdated, basically, is what I'm trying to get at.
Are the laws outdated, or is it the process by which you can attain the copyright for your content? Because like there's more content that's been created in the last decade than there's been since the entire history before that. I think something crazy like that, right? So,
right. Probably in the last year than the prior,
right?
200 years prior to that. But and content means anything. But remember, you're the copyright owner by virtue of creating it. I mean, an interesting question is, you're the author probably of this podcast, but do I own a piece of it as a guest? Probably not, but that is a question that I make my clients ask themselves when they do a collaboration with somebody, when they do any sort of joint creative product. And it's like, who owns this? Who owns the right to distribute it? I had a situation the other day where somebody was complaining that I did a shoot with a bunch of other girls and they withheld the content. They withheld the photos and the videos so that we could all post it and monetize off of it. But what do? This girl won't. I said, well, what was the contract like? Oh, we never signed one. Well, what are you going to do? What's your recourse? Beg and plead? Like, that's really about it. Hope that she decides to change her mind. I don't know what to tell you in that situation. But at the end of the day, it is new in the subject matter, but the concepts remain old, where it's still, you're dealing with contracts.
Right.
You're still dealing with humans arguing. You're still dealing with conflict.
Sure.
And there's always going to be a resolution that can be found based in previous law. But to go out there and say, is there an OnlyFans specific law that exists? Obviously not, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
Maybe revenge porn is the closest thing, but that's a very specific instance that does happen, but that also is covered under criminal law, you know, family law, etc. This specific content, which looking at it at a solely IP level, yeah, this wasn't envisioned when the copyright and trademark laws were created.
If somebody ends up leaking content, is it a criminal offense?
It's a quasi-criminal statute, which means it could be prosecuted.
Interesting.
I have never seen that.
Yeah.
But it's always fun to suggest that, you know, if you're making a demand or something like that. You know, I'm not a prosecutor, but I guess in theory, if the government wanted to prosecute, it's a federal crime then. You remember that logo or that what's it called? You know, downloading or making a copy of this movie can result in $250,000 in fines. Like it's something that popped up before every movie you put on the VHS or even a DVD. It's that. You know, it's the same thing. It could be a criminal offense. It was like when they downloaded like a pirated movie or pirated music, and there was those commercials in the 90s, like you wouldn't steal a car, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I would download one if I could. You know, like
I know lots of people that would do that.
Download a car or steal a car?
Download.
Yeah, okay.
Download a car, not steal a car.
I guess it's the same thing if you ask like the federal government. But,
yeah, no, it's wild. It's like you would have never thought that this could be a career path to represent this type of clientele, right? Like we work with lots of lawyers, right? And you know, personal injury, divorce, workers' comp, and you name it. I've worked with that area of law. Copyright is a unique one because I feel like it's very popular now. But then like taking it a step further to the OnlyFans creator, it's just like,
right.
It just gets, where does it end? Like it doesn't.
Well, it doesn't end. And just because something's new doesn't mean the law doesn't apply to it, even if the law's outdated, right?
Sure.
So
content is content, right? It could be like if you're a painter or a OnlyFans creator.
You could be writing poems. It's still content.
Yeah.
You know, this is content.
Sure.
OnlyFans is content. It's a form of artistic expression. You don't have to agree with it, but it still is.
Yeah.
There's a value. It's the same thing with pornography. It's still content. It's still a form of art, whether or not you could appreciate it, right? You don't have to appreciate it to fall in the definition of art.
Yeah.
Which is what's protected under the copyright law.
Right. Yeah. Because it's a piece of what film or photo or text that's getting
it's any creative work on a medium form, what's the word? In an expression like that's on a medium. I don't know what the actual phrase is, but like any expressionable form of art that's on a medium.
Right.
So like, is YouTube a medium? Yeah. You know,
right.
Are movies a medium? Yeah. It doesn't have to be on a DVD, not necessarily, but it's, you know, it's digital media.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So like, I guess a lot of what you do for your clients is basically covering their ass. Like that's really
exactly
what it is, right?
I'm an insurance policy, but I'm also an enforcer when I need to be. So I have clients that would be like, I don't know what I need to do. And I'd be like, okay, let's sit down and let's evaluate what you have going on and then just come up with a game plan for you. And I'm on call, right? That could be as simple as that.
Sure.
But then I have somewhere it's like, hey, I'm in a really bad contract. I need out. And then it's like, okay, I need to go and do that. Or this person owes me money. This person stole my content. Go get them. That's also what I do.
Gotcha.
It's a very wide array of what I do. You know, it's not so different than professional sports. And that's the analogy I make a lot. You have to think of this industry, at least from my standpoint, where there's the players and then there's the teams. The teams are the management agencies and the players are the girls or guys or whoever that's creating the content. And then you have OnlyFans itself, which is like, the MLB, NBA, NFL.
Sure.
And that's the way I look at it. You have to deal with all parties in that sort of arrangement. So another story that I had is I had a client who OnlyFans was withholding her money because her corporate documents, there was an issue. So what did we do? We had to go through it, contact the Secretary of State, make whatever changes that needed to be made, and then resubmit it to OnlyFans to get her money released. These are that's a common issue that I would deal with a lot.
Yeah. Are you dealing with a lot of leaked content right now?
I'm aware of a lot of leaked content, and there are some clients that have made it aware to me, and I'm saying, all right, what do you want to do with this?
Sure.
I'm ready to go if you are, but pulling that trigger is something that I found that a lot of the clients are not 100% comfortable with yet.
Really?
Listen, litigation's a scary thing, and you have to go to federal court. To me, it's not a scary thing, but I can understand how, to a 22, 23-year-old girl may not want to litigate something, especially that kind of sensitive content.
Yeah, I mean,
but if you don't enforce it, then what kind of precedent are you setting?
Right, you could be known as the person that doesn't care if their content gets
everybody's going to be everyone's sort of that, but it's something that I try to educate a lot. It's like, listen, and there's a lot of money to be made. Like you can recover under that statute either statutorily or actual damages. And under the statutory, it's per violation is you can recover up to $30,000. So if somebody leaked one photo and you wanted to recover that, if you had the copyright registration, if somebody accidentally leaked a photo on accident, you could still recover $30,000. If it was done willfully, and the inference in law is that it was willful. Like, you didn't just do this by mistake. How do you just accidentally post this photo that you didn't have rights to?
And write a caption for it.
Right. And Venmo me $2 for access to it. Right? Like, that would be willful. Then it becomes $150,000 per violation. Per violation.
Crazy.
Right? Now, are you going to get that much money? I don't know. Probably not. Depends on the circuit. Depends on the court. A lot of different factors. Depends how egregious it was. But there's money to be made for sure.
That's insane. Yeah, because I'm used to working with lawyers that fight against insurance companies for money because that's where the money is. It's not from the person that you're suing or that you're going after. It's from the insurance company. In this kind of situation, there is no insurance company, right? Like, I would assume
there's no insurance company unless the person that you're suing, which would be an individual most likely. Are they covered? Probably not.
That's what I mean. Like,
and a big issue too is you have to be able to find that individual, and that's actually leaking the content. And if that individual is not in the United States, what do you do? Yeah, I guess you can go bring a claim if one exists in Malaysia, like whatever that is. But I don't know what the Malaysian copyright law is. But and that's a situation we run into often. However, there is definitely examples of, excuse me,
sure,
cold season.
Sure.
There's definitely examples, at least in my practice, of US-based individuals that are posting photos or videos online, taking money from it, creating a sub-economy, essentially, making money from my client's content. It's like, we can go after this person. They probably have some assets. Let's do it. You got to pull the trigger. You got to say, I want to do this. And the first step is that you have to go get a copyright registration.
Right.
So part of the education aspect of it is before you post your content or when you post your content, get the registration anyway. Just do it.
If you're monetizing your content, especially if you're monetizing, right? Like if your content is worth money,
right?
Why would you not protect yourself?
It's like a pay-per-view boxing match.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you not copyright? If you were the owner of that event, wouldn't you go and get the copyright registration?
Yeah.
I know the UFC does it for sure.
Yeah, they're your client, aren't
right?
Aren't they?
I mean, I still do some stuff for them every once in a while, but that's exactly the same thing. Where it's you go and you get the copyright registration before the event. That's called a pre-registration. The UFC gets a pre-registration because that's like informing the copyright office we're going to be filing one, and then they get one after they publish or have the fight. It's a live fight. You can't get a copyright registration until obviously the fight ends. And then they get the copyright registration, and then they sue all the bars and restaurants that are showing the fight without the proper license.
Gotcha. Can live streamers do that too before like a live stream?
Like
or
a
something?
pre-registration?
Yeah.
Yeah, they could do that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was wondering that. Like if you are like if my plan is to make a piece of content, can I say, hey, I'm going to make this. I'm starting it now.
Yeah,
right?
That's
because theoretically, if an OnlyFans creator makes a video, posts it on OnlyFans, and then goes to get the registration, right? Then there's a time lapse, right? Like there's a long
Well,
a waiting game.
3 months. If you file your copyright registration within 3 months of the published date, it's considered timely. So you don't have
Just file it, right? Not receive it.
Correct.
Not, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Right.
then.
You're not
Okay.
gonna. You're. I mean, it happens. I filed one the other day and it came back within a month, and I was like, oh, sweet. And I didn't do like expedited or anything, but it does happen. When you file a copyright, it comes back within a month. But as long as you register it, and by registering it, I mean, that's what I say, file. I'm using them interchangeably. As long as you do that 3 months from the day that it's posted or published, then it's considered a timely registration.
Interesting. So is that's for copyright or trademark?
Copyright.
Gotcha. Okay. Because trademarks are like a different.
Totally different animal.
Yeah, it's a different animal.
Yeah.
Is there a timely manner for trademarks too? Or can that just be filed anytime?
I think that could just be filed anytime. I haven't run into that issue.
Okay.
I hope that someone doesn't comment, or maybe I do hope someone comments and tells me how wrong I am. But
Yeah.
I'm used to that at this point.
It's part of the game,
Yeah.
man. Part of the game. We just had a conversation about that yesterday. It's like if you're going to put anything on the internet,
You're wrong. Yeah.
expect people to give you crap for it.
Yeah,
Like this is like
absolutely.
it doesn't even matter if you're right or wrong. It can be about your opinion. It doesn't matter. You're going
But
to
your
get people
opinion is
like,
wrong. Yeah, like that's like
exactly
because opinions are object. Yeah,
They're
Are
factual.
objective facts.
That's
Yes,
right.
Correct. Yeah.
I was going to say on the trademark thing, I have I think I told you about this. I had a client that has been using a slogan for 10 years, never trademarked it. Somebody else is using it, hasn't trademarked it, but is using it, and they're pissed. What can they do?
Go get the trademark. It's that simple.
Yeah.
Just go and do it. You got to pony up. I mean, you got to pay for it. You got to just do it. You can go and file it yourself. I would recommend hiring a lawyer to do it for you.
Yeah.
It's not a fun system to navigate.
I went on the website. It's not.
No, it's very antiquated.
It
and
looks
yeah.
old. It looks
Yeah.
like Windows 95, like old. Like,
It could be a lot faster, but it is what it is. I mean, the federal government's always going to be behind.
right. So you can go back as long as there's not a registered trademark for it. You can go back for something that's been used for.
Yeah. I
A
mean,
long
like,
time.
well, if there's never been a trademark for it, I would say in theory, like, yeah, go for it. Whether or not you get it's a different story.
Yeah.
But if no one's ever trademarked this thing, and you can go ahead. Yeah.
Interesting. So new businesses are starting all over the place, right? Like it happens every day. The hustle culture, which like for lack of a better, it's what we do. The hustle culture is like everybody start a business, everybody go start one, but there's a lot of legal implications to creating content, creating names, creating trademarks and
Right,
websites
yeah.
and logos and all that. That it's got to be like open season for you at this point, right? Like,
With intellectual property.
yeah.
If people are smart enough to reach out to me, and it's not like I only do the OnlyFans stuff as much
Right.
as I would like to, but I do intellectual property disputes and registrations, whatever, of all sorts. Every situation is different, obviously. But most individuals that are coming up with their own business and their own IP, it's not at the top of their minds as a priority. And, as someone that started their own business, I know that it wasn't my priority at the time either. But when I started my new firm, Only Firm, and I knew I had something there, the first thing I did was go get a trademark.
Did you? You went?
I got to trademark the name, the logo, and I even trademark protect your assets. But like but the ass is like blue, and the rest,
That's
it's
great.
part of the logo.
You
yeah.
can do that. Like if
yeah,
you can.
Yeah, it's associated with the brand. Yeah, like I'm not.
No, but like the bolding of it or the
Well, it's a stylistic.
you can trademark that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, trademarks are very specific, and it depends on the circumstance, and it
Sure.
depends on what it's being attributed to. Is it going to risk confusion with somebody else's trademark? But I don't foresee mine being an issue. It's already registered.
Gotcha.
It's filed, and it takes forever for the trademark office to respond.
What do you think is the first thing somebody should get trademarked if they start a business?
If they have a logo, that or name, if the name is created that it's like so that it's not a real word, if it's like a fictitious name, go ahead and trademark that so no one else can take it.
Right.
Put your stamp on it for sure.
Gotcha. Okay, because that process can take a while, right?
Right. It takes 12 to 18 months. So do it,
Oh my god. But again, if you just go through the process of getting it going, you're protected, are you not? Like,
yeah, well, people still with trademarks are a little different because if it gets through all the first initial hurdles, it's published in what's called the Trademark Gazette, and there's a 30-day opposition period. So if somebody doesn't want you to have it, they can go and like file an opposition to your trademark. Have I seen that? No.
Gotcha.
I've had people threaten it, but I have not seen it actually happen.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you should go and do that because not a lot of people are probably paying attention to that.
Yeah. You know, something I see a lot of businesses doing, man, and it's so dumb that this is happening. We actually just made a video about this. We're recording this before the Super Bowl, but how many businesses use the Super Bowl and NFL team logos and names in their marketing and promotions
And likeness, yeah.
and they are walking the line, man, because the NFL doesn't mess around if you're caught.
Right. And I know of some stories. I had somebody from Kansas City call me actually asking, hey, can I put the Chiefs logo and stuff? And I'm like, use your brain. What do you think? You know, like probably not, right?
Yeah.
Unless you have a license to do so. Like, no, you do not. But people do it all the time because at the same time, it's so popular and so in our faces because even though like ESPN and maybe all these major corporations have some sort of branding deal with the NFL or the individual teams to use their likeness and their logos,
Right.
which may lead the general public to think that they have a right to use it as well. That doesn't mean that is the case.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because broadcast sports and like all of their social channels are probably covered, and they probably have that blanket license deal.
There's a licensing deal or whatever. Sorry, Jim's like embroidery shop on Main Street does not have that same licensing deal.
Yeah, the pizzeria down the road.
Right, with your Super Bowl pizza special, and you're using the logo from the Super Bowl.
No, that's a no-no, right?
I mean, again, what's going to happen to you? Probably nothing, but what could happen to you would scare the shit out of me.
That's what I mean. You don't want to be the person that freaking Disney comes after because you put.
Now, would they? Probably not, because it'd be a really bad look for them. Imagine if Disney went after a little pizzeria, or something like that.
Sure.
Which, I mean, if you're asking me, I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Like, I'm a mercenary, right? Like, yeah, the law is the law. But like,
it's a good thing you're not a lawyer for Disney at this point.
No.
Lots of Etsy shops would be shutting down.
Yeah, well, lots are. I have had the Etsy shop issue before too.
Did you really? Listen, those are everywhere. Like, you go on Etsy and you could find invitations and mugs and like all licensed.
Because at the end of the day, who's enforcing it, right? Like, someone has to be enforcing it. Somebody from the big corporations, and the UFC is very good about enforcing it. But again, if the UFC doesn't enforce it, they don't have a product, right? If somebody's not paying for the pay-per-view, then the UFC does not make any money. Right. So that's how that works. So they have to enforce it. But if Disney, anyone, Fox, whoever, they need to have somebody or something constantly looking for instances of that. You have to pay that person. You have to pay it with a machine, whatever. And then what do? Send out a form letter? You could, but it's a lot of effort for how much return?
Sure. Well, because odds are the person that is infringing on this doesn't have the means to even. You're not going to recover. What are you going to recover?
Right. You're gonna. Yeah.
Maybe you'll stop them from using your licensed material.
It depends on the message you want to send too. Like if you want to say we won't tolerate this, then that's fine. You go for it. But yeah, if they expect like a monetary return, good luck.
You're gonna get it. Yeah, you're gonna get it from Sally's Invitations on Etsy.
Yeah, right.
She sells them for $1.40.
Right.
Like,
you can get a share for a 2013 Nissan Altima with a broken carburetor.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's it could be a bad look for Disney or Fox or whoever owns the NFL, whoever owns the licenses, but like you probably shouldn't be using it to begin with.
Shouldn't. Absolutely. Does it happen though? Obviously.
Yeah. But again, like for people that just don't know any better, that they're just thinking it's a harmless thing, and for the most part, let's be real, it is harmless, right?
So I have a little bit of an unpopular opinion on that. I think
hit me with it.
I think that companies like Disney, ESPN, et cetera, should be more aggressive in enforcing it. I think they should sue individuals. I think you need to put a fine line in the sand. I'm not saying everybody, but I think it needs to happen because you need to reestablish that intellectual property and copyrights have a value to them. They don't have the value gets diluted the more it's allowed to be used without any consequences. What's the point of me making something and then somebody else uses it?
Sure.
And it's just like, oh, well, everybody does it. Well, maybe that's true, but the copyright laws exist for a reason. And if we don't have more case law saying there's a penalty for this, that if somebody creates something that's completely new, then they can't monetize it correctly. So maybe my opinion is much more aggressive than most. Yes, most instances are harmless, but like I said, the law is the law.
It's there for a reason. It's there for a reason.
And again, it's also what I do. So if somebody steals my client's content, I want to be able to go after the person that stole and be like, you see what you did to them, you caused harm, and I want to get the most amount of money for my client.
Yeah. No, I mean, you have to be a fighter in that regard, right? Because they're not gonna be able to do it on their own.
I mean, also what's fair is fair, in my opinion. Again, just because they're a massive company with billions of dollars, and I don't feel any sympathy for them, which is absolutely the truth, they still have the same rights that you or I would have.
Sure.
You know.
So if somebody were to use my likeness in something without having the rights to it,
it's the same thing. It doesn't matter if they have more money and you don't like them and they've done bad things and they lobby the government. It does not matter. The law applies to us both in the same way. If they own something, they should have a right to enforce it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I could understand that. Right. I also understand.
What if somebody took this podcast and say, we actually own it, and they posted it? 100%. Wouldn't you not be happy? I wouldn't be happy for you.
I'd probably call you.
Yeah, I would hope so.
I'd probably be like, yo, go get them.
That's fine. I had a sue with this poor woman, and she ended up being a lovely lady. She told me, oh, you sounded like a monster. And I'm like, I'm really not that bad when she talked to me.
Yeah. No, just, go look at your videos. I mean, you're
right. I'm actually friendly. If you're going to pay me my client's money, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. That's amazing. No, that's awesome, man. This has been good. I think what would be your piece of advice then to somebody getting into business, starting a company, starting an IP, starting anything, just from a lawyer, what's your advice on the copyright and trademark?
Understand that if you're creating something novel, that there's an inherent value to that, and maybe the value is only to you, but go and protect it, because maybe somebody else is going to see how great or awesome of a product you have or concept that you have. But then you could say at the end of the day, well, maybe you're going to do it better than me, but I was the first to market and I have the name and it's trademarked. So that becomes an asset that you have, or I'm going to get the copyright for this video, whatever. It becomes a tangible asset that you can sell or leverage into something in the future.
So just cover your butt.
Protect your IP.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really good. It's good advice, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I like to think I give good advice. At least sometimes.
Some people on TikTok don't think you do.
Yeah, that's okay. I do enjoy reading the comments.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Where can people get a hold of you and use you if they need?
You can look me up on my website, my multiple websites, and my multiple Instagrams. But for this one, you can find me at Alex Lonstein Law on Instagram, or at the OnlyFans Lawyer. That's both of them are me. And the firm's name is called OnlyFirm, and you can find us at onlyfirm.com.
That's awesome, man. This is good.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me.
This has been fun.
Yeah.
Let's do it again sometime.
Without me having a cold next time.
Please.
Yeah, I'll try my best.
I just want to get out of this room now. That's it. Thanks, man.
No problem.